What's up, guys? It is Rick Ginn. We are talking about how to analyze your wholesale deals and actually how to write the offers. I'm going to go through it step by step, but I'm not going to give you the basic foundation of, okay, you got to do this comp, you got to do that. I'm going to give you the often overlooked common sense of how you need to approach this. And I want you to understand, I'm doing this from a 21-year career perspective in wholesaling. And most of the fundamentals you guys have down right, but like some of the common sense stuff, you miss it. And I don't understand that part of it. And I want to go through and walk you through the common sense on how to do the analysis, how to avoid the analysis by paralysis, how to analyze any wholesale deal. And then we're going to follow up on actually how to write the offer. And the whole time I'm keeping in mind your seller, and you're thinking about your seller. You're either in front of them, you're on the phone with them, whatever it is. But we have to have that connection, and I'm going to teach you how not to separate it, because a lot of wholesalers, they think they separate these two things from the seller, and I'm going to teach you today you actually have to intertwine them. And I'm going to teach you the tips, not really tricks at all, just the procedures you need to go through so you can connect with any seller to basically get your deal accepted over anybody else. I don't care if you haven't done a deal before, get active. If you're super excited about wholesaling, let's get it going. That being said, go over to freewholesaling.com. Let's jump into this. We're talking about deals and how do we do it. So number one, you got to understand analyzing deals. I'm telling you, most of you just get this wrong. So the first thing you have to understand is what are the biggest factors when analyzing a deal? And most of you go, well, I'm going to look at the comps first, and then I'm going to see what the spreads are, and I'm going to come up with a detailed repair sheet, and I'm going to talk to realtors, and I'm going to talk to 5 guys on Facebook, and I'm going to get people's opinions that I have no idea that are qualified to do this business. No, you have to rely on yourself first. Now, you can use all the comping tools, everything you need out there. They're all there for you. But I'm going to share with you what you need to truly analyze in a deal. Now, don't get me wrong. You still have to comp a deal. You still got to figure out the repairs. This live stream is to teach you about the unmentionables that you need to understand when you're putting a wholesale deal together. So I'm not telling you, listen, you got to do comps. So me telling you how to do comps, I tell you how to do whatever, freewholesaling.com. I'm trying to show you the details, the stuff that you're missing that you have to understand. Because honestly, once you understand how to analyze the deals, you don't have to question yourself. So the first 2 years, I felt like I questioned myself every day in this business. So let me show you. So the first thing you need to analyze in a deal is the origin of the lead. I know it sounds simple, but honestly, keep dropping stuff. If you don't know where your lead came from, you have zero shot. So a lot of people out there go, I got a lead, I got a wholesale deal. My first question almost to any wholesaler, especially if I'm going to JV with them, is very simple. Where did you get the lead from? That's all I need to know. I get super excited. Hey, I went to the courthouse. I pulled a probate lead. Awesome. I know we're going in the right direction. And then when they start out saying I called a realtor off MLS, that's all I need to know. It usually stops right there and we don't continue the conversation. You see, a lot of you go down these rabbit holes when you can just ask 2 qualifying questions before you even work on a deal. Now, hopefully the deal came from you and you don't have to do this. That is incredible. But if you're going to JV with someone, you better know where that deal came from, because you want to know how much time you're going to waste talking to someone. So the first thing I ask you guys when we do a deal together is, where did you get the deal from? And if there's this long-winded story, I'm probably not interested. It's a simple question. Where did the deal originate from? And sometimes people go, listen, I called FSBO's off Zillow. I'm fine with that. But then I can qualify all the parameters to see if we can move forward with the lead. Now, here's the worst lead in the world. If you haven't been a wholesaler long enough, you'll get them long enough. Your friends find out you do wholesale and they go, listen, I got a house. I got a list of foreclosures, like 10 or 15 of them. Can I just give them to you? And then if you do business off it, we'll do something. I don't even entertain those, like, ever. Why? Because the reality is a foreclosure is usually in control of the homeowner. And if you don't have a relationship with the homeowner, or you haven't even bothered to even try to cold call the homeowner, what do you want me to do? I am not your cold caller. I'm not doing all that stuff to split a deal with people. You actually have to take effort and you have to go out and contact people, because the art of a wholesale deal, especially in a foreclosure, is, do you have a relationship with them and do they want to get rid of the property? And if so, giving me a sheet of 50 or 100 foreclosures is a waste of my time. I won't even call on it because there's no inclination that there's actually a deal there. There's a ton of work that needs to be done. And if you get those types of leads, guys, don't waste your time. They're telling you up front, you're wasting your time. So the origin of the lead is everything for me when I want to determine if I want to move forward with it. Now, for most of you, you guys are originating your own leads, and this isn't super complicated. But every now and then, sometimes you got to ask yourself, if you're fighting with a Zillow lead that has a realtor involved and they're struggling on getting down on the price, you know by the origin of the lead, it's probably a low probability. You're going to have to go through a lot of numbers, and you're going to have to find someone motivated enough to sell to you. So knowing the origin of the lead, I can actually probably give you a percentage if it's going to work out or not. Now, here's the secret. Offline leads, government lists you earn, they work out phenomenally, like unbelievable. Give me a list that is extremely public where everyone goes, it's much more challenging. And give me a list where nobody's called on, nobody has a shot because no one's made the effort to do it. It's up to you to determine where the lead comes from. Where the lead comes from, it pretty much gives you the DNA if you're going to have a great deal. Now, when someone comes to me, here's my favorite one. Hey, I talked to my neighbor. They want to sell the house. The house is run down. I have a great relationship with them. They just want to sell it really quick. I am all in, like I am hightailing straight to that house. I'm going to meet the person that introduced it to me, and I'm going to make sure they give me a warm introduction, and I'm going to pay them very well on that deal. That's an awesome lead. When somebody hands you a piece of paper, I found 5 foreclosures. Let me know if they work out. I just tell them, listen, you can keep the leads. I don't do that stuff. When you call them all and tell me who wants to sell, then I'll move forward. Because listen, odds are I've probably already called that lead, so you're just kind of wasting my time. So the origin of the lead to me is everything. It will give you the insight if a deal is actually going to work or it's not going to work. And it doesn't mean if Visible off Zillow is not going to work. It's just you got to understand the odds of it. If you got a realtor involved, they're fighting you, they're difficult, and they don't want to move out for 6 to 12 months, you're usually wasting your time. Look to the origin of the lead. If you have a lot of difficulty on those types, move on and find another seller. So the next one is an obvious one, the seller's motivation. And I pound this on you guys all the time. Like here's the secret to wholesaling. You ready? If the seller is not properly motivated, you will not get a wholesale deal. Now, anybody can put a property under contract. We see idiots doing this all day long. The reality, though, is you want a true wholesale deal, you've got to get at a significant discount below today's market price. And if it has $50,000 of repair, you have to back that number out and discount it on that. That's it. And who's going to do that? Somebody that is incentivized and motivated to sell that property. Who would that be? I don't know. Maybe it's a pre-foreclosure or foreclosure. Maybe it's an eviction. Maybe it's a probate lead. Grandma passed away. Got to get rid of the property. It's urgent. We can get rid of it now. What's the other one? They're endless, guys. Code violations, tax delinquencies, water shutoffs, fire damaged properties. This is why me and Zach push so hard so you guys try to cultivate the right leads. Okay? Do you understand that? It's so important. If you get the wrong leads, you're wasting time. So here's the challenge with this. A lot of people try to negotiate a wholesale deal with someone who's not motivated. You're literally wasting your time. You cannot make people sell you the property. God knows I've tried. It doesn't work. Either you're a good fit or you're not. So if they want retail, guess what they need to go? They need to go to a realtor. You can't pay retail. That's not wholesaling. Go find a guru. There's plenty of gurus that'll sell you on the MLS flip deal because the success rate is so low, is so minimal, but there's a glimmer of hope. Like you're saying there's a chance. I'm just telling you, I don't teach pie in the sky techniques. It's a complete waste of time, and I don't want you to waste your time on it. So you've got to understand when it comes down to, you look at the origin of the lead and you look at the motivation of the seller. You give me those two things, I will tell you in less than a minute if you're getting a great wholesale deal. Without those two things, I cannot identify if you have a good deal or not. End of story. Like honestly, if you had to share 2 pieces of information and tell me if you have a deal, that's all I need. Where'd you get the lead from? What's the seller's motivation? If you don't know where you got the lead from and there's absolutely no seller motivation, you are literally wasting your time. And that leads me to the next one. You ready for this? It's my favorite. It's It's not my favorite. It just ticks me off. You guys got to stop acting like realtors. So listen, if you're a licensed realtor and you bought into someone telling you got to be a licensed realtor to be a wholesaler, that's like saying to be a truck driver, you need to go get your real estate license. I mean, completely opposite fields, completely different businesses, but some of you actually buy into the stuff, whatever. And some of you have real estate licenses, and that's great. Hopefully you got it because you wanted to be a realtor and you've changed your mind and you've seen the light of wholesaling. But a lot of you go on these appointments, you in virtual and on the phone, and you treat it like you're a realtor. And that, honestly, I got to tell you, you are not a realtor. And don't be a realtor. You got to stop acting like a realtor with these people. If they want a realtor, they'll go get a realtor. They're looking for someone that can actually buy the house and solve their problem. And if you try to pitch everyone like you're a realtor, you're never going to be a wholesaler. Realtors pitch to get the highest listing price possible to sell you on the dream so they can get the most commission. Most of the realtors know the property's never going to sell for what they listed for. And then hence the game goes on. And as long as that game goes on, there's always going to be a need for wholesalers because wholesalers, in my opinion, are truth seekers. I just want to get your property sold and get to the finish line as fast as possible. If you're on board with that, I'm going to make a profit. If you're good with that, let's go. 98%, 99% of the people I've worked with never have an issue with that statement with me. And if they do, they go to a realtor or somebody else, and I'm okay with it. I'm all about full disclosure, guys. I am assigning my contracts, and I'm making a profit, and I'm providing a tremendous service for you. If somebody wants full retail and you try to wear your wholesaling cap and you try to make them do it, thinking you're getting like a 5-6% discount off a realtor, like the MLS price, you're wasting your time. That has nothing to do with wholesaling. Maybe you want to be a speculator. Maybe you want to be a fix and flipper that plays with the numbers and tells yourself, you know, I made $100,000 profit, and you never get to see the numbers and find out they spent $130,000 to make that $100,000 profit. You know what I'm saying? That's what you have to understand when you do this. If you guys would just stop acting like realtors. How do I stop acting like being a realtor? Well, that's easy. Number one, 80-20 rule. Okay. It's simple, guys. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You've got to understand that's how it works out. So the less you talk, the better you do in wholesaling. Why? Because you can't construct an offer or solve someone's problem if you're running your mouth the entire time. But Rick, 20%, what kind of question am I going to ask? You're going to use conversation and ask the qualifying questions using the MCTP. If you don't know what that means, just go over to freewholesaling.com. I teach the whole thing there, and I'll show you how to do it. Guys, it's all there for you. But you've got to understand is some of you just talk too much. So guys, you know I'm guilty. You know I like to talk. I ramble. But like when I first started out, I talked. Most of you talk because you're nervous and you don't know what to say. So once you do that, you just have to recognize and go, okay, I got to stop talking. I've got to let them talk. The more your sellers talk, the more data you get and the better offer you can present to them. Remember, if you solve your seller's problem, you've got a great shot at getting a wholesaling deal. If you're just trying to solve your problem, you're probably never going to get a deal. And that's what most wholesalers don't make that connection. If you can go, okay, listen, if I can buy your house in the next 30 days and you can net this amount of money and we can handle all the paperwork and I will make it minimally invasive the amount of people come through your house so you can move to South Carolina with your brother. Is that something we can work together on? And that's it. That's all they're looking to do is put 2 and 2 together. But the problem is you've got to use the 80-20 rule to gather that data. If you're talking the entire time, it means your ego's taken over and nobody's listening to you other than yourself. Sound familiar? Guys, we do it all the time. We love to hear ourselves talk. When it comes to the seller, they've got to be the highlight. And I'm not talking about like butt kissing or anything like that. Naturally connect with them with a conversation. So it's okay to start out with a script with people. I have no problem with that. I'm not an anti-script. But at some point, you've got to understand the fundamental highlights of your script and turn it into a conversation. How do you do that? 80-20 rule. The less I talk, the more I make. That's just the rule. So here comes my last 2 pet peeves. You ready for this on analyzation? My 10-minute comp rule. If you just stick to this, it'll keep you out of trouble. I instituted this rule, unfortunately, about 3 years after I got into wholesaling. And here's what I found. Here's the psychology behind it. You ready? If you're spending more than 10 minutes comping a property out, and a comp is just short for the word comparable, which means looking at similar like properties, square footage, year built, same amount of bedrooms, and seeing if they're priced accordingly. Now, when you do comping, you should put the numbers together. Now, comping's a range. You got kind of a high and you got a low. I always get rid of the high, get rid of the low, and I take very similar properties and I come up with a range. I want to pick the most conservative of the range. So if the range is 220 to 200, my comp is 200 and I call it a day. I don't negotiate with myself, but here's what most of you do. And God knows I was guilty when I first started out. And thank God I didn't have Zillow and all this other stuff. You guys, between Zillow, Trulio, PropStream, and Batch, it's a lot of data, and I get it. And now there's all these free list providers, and don't get me into like free list providers because I think it's a huge recipe for disaster. So here's what happens is when you're paying too much for a property, your natural inclination is you did your initial comp search and you go, oh my God, like there's no spread on it. And then what do? You go and try to find the comp to justify what you're paying for it. In reality, it means you need to offer a lower amount. Otherwise, you're going to be working for free, or worst case scenario, you're going to be stuck with a deal you can't sell. So I rather you have the upfront hard conversation up front. The next one, I'm going to show you how to do that. You got to understand the human mind has this ability to go find anything to justify the story you're going to tell yourself. Now, let me give you an analogy. Say someone's sick, right? Or say somebody's a hypochondriac and they go, I think I have these symptoms. I Googled it. And then they go start finding doctors. And the first doctor says, no. Listen, you just got a raspy throat. You don't have strep throat or like whatever you think it is. And you're like, ugh. And so what is that person? They leave that doctor. And if they don't like that, they go find another doctor. And the next doctor tells me, he goes, no, you just got a little bit of sore throat. You're fine. And then they go 4 or 5 doctors. They spend a ton of time, a ton of money. And they eventually find a doctor and they sometimes brainwash them and go, don't you think I have strep throat? And here's what the doctor says. Well, I guess it's a possibility. Aha, I've got strep throat. And that's what you do with your comps. You do the exact same technique. You see, you didn't like the initial answer. So then you decided to go outside of PropStream and you went to Trulio. Then you went to Zillow. Then you took the Zestimate. And then you went to Realtor.com. And then you went over to Batch. And then you went to the tax assessor's office. And you find one number out of 15. You go, look at this house. It's sold. I got a new comp. Well, you can do that. It's going to make you feel real good. And the problem with that is all you're doing is creating self-satisfaction, instant gratification, and it's going to kill you in wholesaling. So if you stick to the 10-minute rule, you can't play with the numbers, and it'll give you a guide. If it comes back at the conservative comp's 200, you need to adjust your offer accordingly. So say the house didn't need repairs, maybe you make an offer of 120, 140, whatever you do. But here's the problem, guys. You spend too much time comping to try to find a comp that's going to justify the actions you're taking. And you'll eventually find one. All investors find it. But it's just instant gratification because it's going to be a disaster in the long run. Ask me how I know this. So check this out. So do the 10-minute comp. Your next step is very simple. Stop going for the yes on your first offer. That's what a realtor does. Remember, I told you to stop being a realtor? Here's the key. Stop going for a yes on your first offer. Rick Ginn, I was featured on, YTY, whatever you want to call it. 6 million viewers on it. And I was highlighted because this Rick Ginn guy, it's Rick Ginn, by the way, he uses a technique called lowballing, going for the no. Oh my God. That's the most horrific thing I've ever heard in my life. You got it. It's the truth. I stand by the techniques I teach you guys because I've got 21 years in this game. And if you try to go for a yes on your first offer, it means you're operating like a realtor and you don't understand wholesaling. So go over to freewholesaling.com. I'll teach you how to do it the right way. Have that difficult conversation up front and you're going to have much more success on the back end. Doing it the other way is you're going to think you're successful up front and you're going to have disasters on the back end. But let's talk about making offers. Very simple. Making offers. A lot of people freeze up on this. The reality in the wholesaling business is your first offer is always verbal for probably 90% of the time. There's occasion where we just send offers, but the reality is you make a verbal offer. You want to know one of the biggest mistakes you guys make? Sometimes you don't take your verbal offer and put it actually in writing. There's something about an offer that's put in writing that makes a tremendous difference. And I'm here to tell you guys, you've got to understand that. If you had a verbal and somehow it didn't go through, awesome, everybody can hear me, there's something about writing an offer that really rings in people. So here's the typical scenario of most wholesalers. You make an offer, you do it verbal, they kind of stoned you. They didn't like give you anything. Put it in writing and leave them an offer. Now, it's up to you how you want to do it. But oftentimes when I leave an offer, sometimes the husband turns me down and then the wife picks up the contract and goes, let's get this property sold. It happens a lot more than you think. Actually, I did a study over a 2-year period, and everybody who turned me down, we then instituted where we would send them an automatic offer and created this ridiculous software. And guess what? On average, 12% of those people want to come back and negotiate. Now, sometimes the writing just triggers people. Ask a realtor. You can talk about an offer all day long, but if you put it in writing, they actually take you seriously. So why would it be any different with a seller? And I'm here to tell you, you guys often overlook. Sometimes you go, well, I offered him 150 and he turned me down. He said he couldn't take anything less than 180. We're just too far apart. Make an offer, put it in writing, 155, and then use that as your follow-up technique. You see, the next step in it is you have to write the offer. So I want you to guys kind of gauge on how many offers you actually write, because it makes a tremendous difference. So when you write an offer, sometimes people go, oh my God, Rick's serious. He's not just talking anymore. And some of your sellers aren't taking you seriously for one reason or another. Put it in writing. It won't kill you. Our offers are very simple. It's 2 pages. It's really a page and a half, and get it in front of them. Get it in front of the decision maker. You have nothing to lose. They've technically already kind of turned you down. So why not give them a written offer? A written offer engages people like, oh my God, they're serious. It might actually start a negotiation for you. Now, it doesn't work in every case scenario, but those of you that are getting to your verbals and you're not getting anywhere, that is a ticket for you to write an offer. You can even send it in a simple email. Like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you leave it with them. You have to learn how to read the room on which is going to stick better. But often, if it's a 2-party that's selling the property, maybe a husband, wife, brother, or sister, or something like that, one's all on board and the other one's When the one gets the contract, you'd be surprised how they will manipulate and squeeze the other one to sign that contract. And guys, it happens a lot more than you think. I can't tell you how many deals I've salvaged because I turned a verbal into written. And for the longest time, I never followed up with people that didn't accept my verbal offer. And it's a huge mistake. You should get at least a 10 to 12% engagement with people that turn you down if you send them a written offer. Now, how you send it is completely up to you. You can do an email. You can mail it. Mailing is extremely powerful. You could just even do we've even done letters of intent. They're not as powerful, but they do work if you're scared. And so if you're scared of oh my God, Rick, I'm going to send an open contract out there. That's scary. Let me tell you, here's the secret to it. This is the unwritten rule. So if you've paid attention, this little technique is going to you're going to go, oh my God. Here's what you do. You put your offer together, your 2-page offer. You got nothing to lose. Send it out. The key is you put a cover letter on. This offer expires. I usually give them 5 to 7 days at most. 48 hours is ridiculous, guys, because if you're going to mail it, you have no idea when the mail is going to get there. And then a good sign is if they call you to discuss the offer, game on. You've got a really good potential wholesale deal. It means they're very motivated. Now, I usually raise that offer just a little bit off my verbal. Here's the key. If you're scared to be committed to a contract, send the offer and don't sign it. Voila. I used to sign them all the time. And then people would mail me back contracts even like a month or 2 later. I'm like, oh my God. They go, am I obligated? I'm not. And I got myself in a predicament a few times. So what my lawyer advised me to do is just send the contract and don't sign it, and say once they sign it, you'll send it back for review. And if the number works out, that's great, because a lot of times they'll send it back. They'll change the price on you, do a lot of things. So to cover your butt and use this technique, I'm here to tell you, when you send out a written offer like that, unless you've already come to an agreement and you're just getting the final signature, just don't sign it. And once they call you back or they send it back, then you could do the final negotiations, and then you can fully execute your contract, which means both parties have signed. It's really that simple, guys. And here's the thing is, you got to follow up with these offers. Using the offers just like these is a perfect technique for you to follow up with your sellers. Honestly, a lot of your deals, probably most of your deals, are going to come from follow-up. Why? Because wholesaling is timing. Everything in real estate is timing. When people want to sell, sometimes you're in your face, they're just not ready to do it. So realtors have to deal with this. Wholesalers have to deal with it. Everybody has to deal with it. And so how do you solve this timing thing? Follow-ups. So use writing your contracts as a technique so you can follow up with people. It's really, really that simple. So, so funny. You guys are funny. So here's the last one, and this is the tip I'm going to share with you. As a wholesaler, you have to understand this. When you walk in, so I'm talking to people who do physical appointments. My favorite, but we do them virtually too. When you walk in, please do not walk in, even if at all possible, leave your cell phone in the car. At worst, put it on vibrate, silent, put it in your pocket. Maybe have your keys. That's all you walk in these appointments. When you guys walk in with these giant folders, binders, my favorite is when people walk in with these giant briefcase. Once you do that, you created eye candy for your seller, and they go right there. They go, all of a sudden their focus will go. They're waiting for you to access that thing because they don't know if you got like a machete in there. They think you got some sort of magical tool that you're going to attack them with. So take it away from them. I'm here to tell you, this is the time you should not be paying attention to your cell phone. Your eyes, your ears, everything has to be engaged with your seller. If you can't commit to your seller, why are you spending all this time? You spent all this money, you did marketing, you've answered phones, you've learned how to comp properties, you've got the guts to actually make a change in your life, and you're sitting there with your cell phone on your lap. It's a habit. And it's a habit you have to change, okay? That seller has to be the most important person in front of you. Now, I get it. If you got kids and stuff, just put it on silent and put it on vibrate, and then you can deal with it if the situation arises. But checking social media or doing any of that stuff, please, guys, put these phones away, because when they start vibrating and like flashing stuff, it's a huge distraction. And your seller's going to go, maybe Rick's got something more important to do than hang out here with me. So I'm here to tell you, you've got to understand. They've got to be it. So how do I do that? Write your contract with your seller. So you've given a verbal, you've negotiated, you got down to the final thing. What do I do now, Rick? You made me leave my briefcase and my folders in the car. It's real simple. Mr. Seller, you mind if I go into my car? I'm going to go ahead and get a contract, and then I'll come back here and we'll go over it together. Does that sound fair? Awesome. And they go, hey, listen, so here's a technique I use. This is one I don't share with everybody. I ask them, do you have a pen on me? Even though I always have a pen, if they give me a pen, I know this is a piece of cake. It is a sign that you have a committed seller. They're motivated when they hand you a pen. Now, when they don't hand you a pen, sometimes they're nervous, and I can tell that. I pull my pen out, and then I take the contract. Now, the only thing I have pre-filled on the contract, 9 times out of 10, is my company that's buying it. Remember, it's an assignable contract. And then I have the seller's name. And then I'll have the legal description. That's as much as you want to fill out on a contract before you go on an appointment. Why? Because you're getting the seller's confirmation that you have a deal with them when you go through and you just handwrite the contract with them. Do you understand that? And I know what you're saying. Well, Rick, isn't that contract long? Guys, the contract's 2 pages if you use mine. Now, occasionally you have to use the Realtors approved contract. I get it. That thing sucks to go through, but do what you got to do. We find that the 2-page contract, a motivated seller goes through very quickly and they don't get a lot of anxiety. Now, using words like, can I get your okay? Can I get your autograph? Using the words contract, signature, you're gonna fire up their nervous system and you're gonna freak them out. So remember, like when the cop pulls you over, you see the blue lights, red lights, and you think you're getting a ticket even though they're just trying to pass you. Same thing happens with your sellers. So you want to work with them. Listen, this is the biggest decision most sellers are making in their life, and you have to help them with it. And the fact that they're not using a realtor, trusting you because maybe they got issues with the house, you have got to respect it. So I find by filling out the contract with them, if they want to talk to you about something like, okay, and we'll have the closing date on the 30th. And they're like, well, I don't know, like we're going to need a few months to move. Okay. What date do you need? And I say, Mr. Seller, I'm not moving in your house. I'm here to help you out. And they go, oh my God, they're really trying to help me out. So we work through it. Hopefully you already have the price set. You might have to haggle a little bit with the deposit. But when you engage your seller, they're much more committed to the deal. Imagine this. You negotiate with your seller and then you pop up a contract and you throw it in their face, tell them to sign. It makes them it puts them on edge. So when you make them participate in the writing of the contract, you seem like an average Joe. You seem like you're down to earth with them and you're connecting with them, and it reaffirms your bond with the seller. And that's what I love the most about a really good wholesaler. Guys, a lot of these details I share over at freewholesaling.com for you. You can go check it out. But I'm giving you the nuances, what most people won't tell you that you need to do to make these deals stick. because making them stick is all that counts in the end. Because you can play the game where you just run people over, throw contracts in their face, and it's very transactional. You have to switch from being transactional to evoking the seller's emotion to get the best deals possible. That's right, guys. I use the go for no method. Why? Because it's the most efficient way to get to the finish line. And it actually saves your seller a lot of aggravation of a long, drawn out negotiation. When in the end, if you can't buy it at a discount, you can't buy it anyways. And you need to move on. And if they need to seek a realtor out, that's okay. Either way, I tell every seller, I'm going to help you out no matter what transpires in this. I mean, that's everything I have on. I know it sounds really basic, but I'm here to tell you, when it comes to analyzing deals, if you guys are looking at like a realtor, most likely you're paying way too much for the property, and maybe you should call a realtor. Like, I got no issues with realtors. Heck, my wife's one. But I want you to understand, when we talk about realtor and wholesaler, there is a certain way they can work together, and they both have to be committed. And if one is not committed to the other one, it's always a disaster. And that's how we get the Hatfield McCoys. And I don't think you force any relationships on anybody. But when you know you have a property that needs help, then that's what you want to do.